Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We studied about establishing mindfulness on mind, on the mental states. In a practical way to develop this, I just remembered when you do the breathing meditation, let's say for an example, you were doing the meditation. Now, what happens when we do the breathing meditation? Our mind keeps wandering. It goes out from the breathing. In that moment, we can use this understanding about the mindfulness on mind, that you try to understand what kind of a mental state that you have that time. What time, which time? When the mind is wandering during the breathing. Let's say we were doing the breathing meditation. Mind is going to some kind of uh, angry mental state. Let's say the anger can be towards ourselves or something that happened in the past or something. So now this come to our mind. In that moment, if we need to protect that mindfulness, ongoing mindful practice, we need to understand that moment. Okay, in this moment, I have anger. There is this angry mental state. That way, we understand that mental state. Clearly, that is not the breathing, right? That is not the breathing in that moment because it is wandering, right? Uh, then when it wanders, we don't feel sad. We don't get sad. Oh, I can't do the meditation. It's not going to work. This way, how I can attain mindfulness. We don't worry, but we try to see that mental state. What do you think? Is this possible? Can we understand that mental state when it is there? Yeah, probably we were going some kind of a mental construct that is going on in the meditation. Most of the time, we don't know actually. We don't know when the mind wandering. We don't know actually whether we are doing the meditation or not. It's so hard to find out. Um, let's say in a moment that we fall into sleep, actually we don't know that we are meditating or not because we are inside the inside the sleep, right? But there might be a time that we wake up. Then in that moment also, there is still remaining the sleepy mental state. it's just simply impacted on us into our meditation, but this goes on in some levels when it comes to sleepiness. And so same way with the anger, when the anger entered to the meditation, we are going to focus to the breathing, but this angry mind again come to us, again and again come to us. In order to safeguard your meditation, you must understand that mental state. Okay, now I have anger. When you understand that, according to how we studied so far, when you understand that, you become the master of that angry mental state. You become more powerful over the mental state, that you won't go to any other decisions or other judgments or other reactions, but you merely get to know this. Are you with me? Okay. That's how I develop trust when I see that you are understanding this. Otherwise, we can't go into deeper topics. Okay, so let's say that we remember something out of greed. Let's say we are actually doing the breathing meditation, but probably there can be greedy moments. Do we have greed in our life, in our day-to-day life? Can can we recognize, not understanding, can we recognize that we are getting greedy things? Or do we recognize after that we take up what we were greed for? How do we normally get to know? Like, how do we recognize that mental state? When there is food, do we get greed? Normally, we get greed. Let's say we completely finished our food, but still there can be greed, but the body is not accepting. No, 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 Bante, you can't eat even more. You just you just stay today, and tomorrow you can take that. The body won't accept, but the mind has that greedy state. Then what do? We bring our mindfulness over that mental state. Okay, now there is greed. Again, it is not just mere noticing, because sometimes we can misunderstand this concept by thinking that noticing or labeling is not, it's not that. Like, it's not labeling or just mere noticing, because labeling can be a block to be fully aware into the mental state, because we are going through some unnecessary thinking over that moment to label it. But this is not labeling, or this is not noticing, because sometimes there are teachings says that when you get greed or anger, you think angry, angry, angry. When you get greed, you think greed, greed, greed. When you get fear, instruction says you think fear, fear, fear. Actually, that becomes a block to know, understand that moment of the mental state, because we are just trying to like replay something with the exact moment, exact situation. But when it comes to greed, if we want to develop mindfulness over the greed or else over the anger, we need to uh, fully understand that mental state, completely understand that mental state, which means that we take that as a ground to be fully absorbed in that mental state. Absorbing doesn't mean that we chase after it, but we become aware. How do we know that we done it correctly? If we do that mindful observation, if we focus to that mental state to get to know complete, like 100% mental state, now there is anger, that it brings more wisdom and it reduces that urgency, like urgent wanting for something. Like, there is unconscious reactions that we are doing day-to-day life, that whenever something bring us greed, we go and we react and we attach. Say that it is the food that brings us the greed, and we immediately react to that food, and then we attach to that. Actually, attachment is created because of that mental state. So what we do is that we understand, but it understanding means that it should open up yourself to more and more deeper, like wisdom when the grade is there. Uh, in the teachings, the teaching explains why do we get greed. It said that there are conditions that get greed. There are special things underneath why that greed come to us. There are things that underneath why we get angry, why we get delusion. But if we just merely notice or label or name it or something, we do such a thing, it's simply blocking our way to understand it deeply. In order to get to know this, actually this become more easy when you do a meditation, and in that meditation, if you try to develop that understanding, develop that understanding of greed, develop that understanding of anger, develop that understanding of delusion. Simply think that before you start your day, you go to some meditation. Let's say you start to do breathing. Now in the early morning, it's more easier for you to do the breathing meditation because mind is very peaceful. Um, there can be something coming to your mind even when you do the breathing meditation in the morning, that why am I sitting down here? What am I doing here? I have a lot of things to do in the day. There can be such like anxieties about the future, but if we get this opportunity, we can just make like a thought in here. I will just stay like 30 minutes and do meditations, and next I will go to other works. In that moment, you can get this moment to train yourself how to be mindful during the daytime when it comes to the mental states. You sit down, you continue breathing, and then the mind is wandering, then you don't feel sad. You get to know what kind of a thing my mind is wandering now. Is it going to the greed, or is it going to the anger, or is it going to the delusion? If mind wanders, it can only wander for these three. You can categorize this mental wandering into these three groups. Yes. Because it's hard to understand when it comes to the English term greed, anger, delusion, but it carries a great amount of definition there when it comes to greed. We would think when it's greed, a greed means actually it is the greediness to the food. We might think like the greediness to the wealth or to the money or something like that. But actually, this greediness can be also to the thoughts. Like it can be mental also, not just mere physical. So the greed actually is the lobe, and the dosa is the anger, and the moha is the delusion. Now, when the mind wanders during the breathing, if that is going to the wandering thoughts, we can get to know, okay, now I have greed. We get to know that mental state. Probably you can spend only with the understanding of the greedy mental state in the whole 30 minutes meditation. That is greedy thought, a greedy mental state. When the instructions are given like this, don't need to confuse that we need to practice all of these all together. Like you collect all the apples together, oranges together. What happens? Without a bucket, you can catch all like hundreds of things together. No, just to start from one step, from the greed. Greed doesn't mean bad, okay? Sometimes people think that, okay, greed is having greed is terrible. I'm a foolish. Why do I have greed? Such an idiot. Why do I have greed? These greedinesses? No, no. We are not going to make such like assumptions over this, but we just see for the mental training, we just see this greedy mind as greedy mind. Okay. So in the breathing, when that mental states arises, don't stop the meditation. Don't be sad. Simply get to know in this moment there is greed. There is greed. Um, in this moment, actually, understanding is enlightening. If you understand, let's say there is ongoing breathing meditation, mind is going to the greedy mental state, you understand, that is enough when you are in the meditation because you already have an anchor, you already have a training now, ongoing meditation. You just simply get to know, okay, here now I have anger. No, here I have greed. Then when you understand it, you can come back to your breathing. So that is enough in that moment because of that ongoing meditation. So that mental constructing process would collapse there, would stop there, and it would come back to the breathing. Okay? I'm just talking about that training to observe the mental states. Let's say, can we have greed and anger and delusion all together? I mean, can we have, let's say, the first two, can we have anger and greed together in the same time? Difficult topic. When you become mindful, when the mind is fully focused to the mental state, you can only focus to one thing at a time. You would only get to know the greedy mental state. Later, the greed would disappear. Then there would be anger. Now, your focus is to the anger. Anger won't stay like that too. It would go to the greed again to the anger. We cannot actually plan like, okay, this time I would get anger and next time I would get greed. But whatever arises in the mind, we get to know. If two things works together in the same time, we can develop mindfulness. Know that we can develop kind of an understanding because it's mixed. That is why it is important to understand what are the underlying conditions that brings the greed, that brings the anger, that brings the delusion, and every other mental states. Actually, this is where that we can see that the mind is actually having under the control of conditions, but not under the control of our own commands. Sometimes there are angers or greeds that we don't really like it. We don't really need that. Probably there can be a greed in a way like addiction. We know that it harms, but we can let it go. And we would think, okay, I have my power over my mind. I have my authority over my consciousness. But I can't let it go. Why? Because that is governed by the conditions. until that conditions disappears or else that we understand that mental state, it would be there. Then we see this the same person who were addicted to the something. Later they suffer a lot and they ask why this happened to me, why I went in this direction. I never wanted this. Anger too. The first step is to understand when the mental state arises. Okay, there is this mental state, greed. When it arises, there is anger like this. A special point that in this way, actually we are not stopping or blocking our experience. Okay? I mean, like I said, we are not stopping our greed. We are not stopping our anger. Sometimes people think that this way that you reject your experience. You are rejecting your life. You are trying to reject your like emotions. Absolutely not. You are only understand. When it comes to the Buddhism, in the Buddhist teachings, among the Four Noble Truths, there is something called suffering. Suffering means dukkha. Dukkha means the pain, sorrow, lamentation, grief, despair, whatever that we can fit into the uneasiness inside of us. Solution is not to fight with it. When there is dukkha, dukkha is not to fight. Dukkha is not to escape. Among the category of dukkha, first noble truth, there is rebirth, old age, sickness, death, separation, having to be lived with unloved ones, having to be separate with loved ones. Those are the category of the suffering. This is not to fight. This is not to escape. These are the two extremes we go. Else we fight with it, or else we escape from it. No, I don't have such a thing called rebirth, old age, sickness, death, separation, having to be with unloved ones. There is no such a thing. We try to suppress that, or else we try to escape from that. No, please don't come to me. May no this pain come to me. May I not conquered by this pain. I will escape and I will go somewhere. I will hide. I will disappear. No, both two extremes are invalid. But what the solution in the teaching is to what? Comprehend, understand, develop the wisdom over it. If I give a one, comprehension. Comprehension is actually that we call the understanding. Now, when it comes to the greed is not to fight, not to escape, but to understand. Anger is not to fight or not to escape, to understand. This exists. There is greed. There is anger. There is delusion. And that is the defense. That is the confidence. That is the power. That is the authority. That is the liberation. That is the standing up without falling down. We stand up. We become very confident. Greed is here. Anger is here. Delusion is here. Then it's up to you to choose whether you act upon it or not to act upon it. You can decide. But if we take the teaching incorrectly, we would think, okay, this is teaching about like negativity, um, like bad things, negligence, or like we don't need this, like the thought should be suppressed. Then what would happen to us? Actually, the mindfulness develops that awareness, it develops that wisdom. When we see that, we become very powerful. Then, in the second aspect of observing the greedy mind, it's said in the teaching Satipatthana, one knows when the mind without greed also. One knows the mind with greed, and one knows the mind without greed. When it says that when one knows the mind without greed, which means this the closing bracket. There is opening bracket and the closing bracket. The greed mind and the mind without greed, which means that the mental state has impermanence. The mental state arises and it falls. We normally think the greed is forever when it comes to us. Let's say easy thing to understand. Let's say anger come to us. When anger come to us, we think it's solid, it's forever. It will gonna stay here and forever. It stays the same without changing. It's something fixed. We won't get any relief from this. But actually anger, even though that it come to us, it is truly impermanent. When Buddha says to understand both arising and both vanishing, which means mind with anger and mind without anger, means actually this person is understanding the both ends of this momentarily arising and falling process. Like if you look closely through the mindfulness and wisdom, you can catch this greed or anger is not actually a solid thing, but it's rising and falling, rising and falling. Even if you zoom out more and more and more deeply through the concentration, you would see that it's actually a succession of events that is just rising and falling, rising and falling. But because we are confused, because we don't have mindfulness, it always seems like it was there forever. That's the wrong perception into the mental state. But how do we know that it is distorted or wrong perception? Through the mindfulness, we can unravel that. We can unravel, oh, this is nothing to immediately react, but this is to understand. Anger is to understand. That is why in the teachings it says that the ultimate way to deal with the unskillful thoughts, ultimate way to deal with the defilements, impurities, is patience. Patience. Why? If we pause and become patient, we would see how these things working in life. We would see how this anger is not actually like solid. Sometimes over time that we understand, oh, this led to this and that led to that and that led to that. We understand, oh, that's what happened in that situation. But I was actually mindless. That's why I went through that. And that's why I spoken that way. Then regret later. But if we were to be patient in that moment, patient means not, okay, tell me whatever you want. I will start listening. No, but being mindful. Patience means actually a sort of mindfulness. Patience. So it said that the person who develop impermanence meditation becomes a deep patient person. That person become patient. Why? Because this person truly understand, okay, this is impermanence. Sometimes we say this, we think, okay, my problems are still here. I'm actually thinking impermanent. Why they are not changing? Actually, that is changing. But the problem is that we expect something permanent inside of the impermanence without awakening to it. We just try to find something to latch. but it's just changing. We won't understand this in our surface level of uh, meditation understanding, but it has to go through a deeper level of mindfulness, mindful practice to know that how things are conditioned and things are changing in life. So when the mind wanders in the breathing, we get to know, okay, in this moment, mind is wandering. Where does it wanders? It wanders to the greed, or else it wanders to the anger. It wanders to the delusion. If we dwell long time with the very powerful mindfulness over that mental state, you get to know all the information about that greed, what it caused, why do I have greed, what happened next, what would happen if I keep greed like this. In the teaching says the greed is like a fire, anger is like a fire, delusion is like a fire. Aggi Sutta. In the Aggi Sutta, Aggi means fires, three fires. We see like the greed as a hot pan. We make some omelette, but we couldn't put that pan into the sink, so we leave it there. Without knowing, we touch it. Now is burning the hand. Now I really wanna leave this. Just the same way, if someone focus to the greed, anger, or delusion, they start to see this as like a burning, something burns. This is just the words, but in the true experience, we can get to know. But it goes more into the mindfulness. Yeah. So greed, anger, delusion, we need to understand that. Then we see the breathing meditation is very powerful. Then we come back to the breathing meditation naturally, because we see the greed is distracting, anger is distracting. So we immediately come to the breathing. So this is a very good way to handle that wandering mind in the moments of wandering. Um, yes, friends. Do we go to the sutta, to the other part of the sutta? We still have a few more 5 minutes because we wanna go to a new topic next week. Let's try to go quickly over the sutta because there is only a very short part. We studied the first part of the sutta. This is where we stopped. If by such self-examination a bhikkhu knows, I am often given to longing, given to ill will, overcome by dullness and drowsiness, restless, plagued by doubt, anger, defiled in mind, agitated in body, lazy and unconcentrated, when they look upon their mind, if they were to find out these mental states. Buddha says he should put forth extraordinary desire, not the normal desire we have, but extra desire over that mental state. Effort, zeal, enthusiasm, indefatigability. Can someone pronounce this for me? Indefatigability, mindfulness, and clear comprehension to abandon those same bad, unwholesome qualities. Literally, which means that the Buddha says that when you see anger, when you see greed, drowsiness, like the hindrances or these mental states, you put extraordinary desire, effort, enthusiasm, deep effort, energy to let that go. Because that is actually causing us to be distracted, and that clouded our mindfulness, clouds mindfulness. Now he gives a simile to understand how do you practice that. Just as one whose clothes or head had caught fire would put forth extraordinary desire, effort, zeal, enthusiasm, indefatigability, mindfulness, and clear comprehension to extinguish the fire on his clothes or head. So too, that bhikkhu should put extraordinary desire, effort, zeal, enthusiasm, which means this kind of effort, enthusiasm should be more powerful than the greed, than the enjoyment the greed brings, than the enjoyment the anger brings, to cut off that, in that moment, to cut off that process. He gives a simile to understand that. He says, like, suppose that your clothes on fire, head on fire. Don't we put extraordinary desire, effort? Do we say that, okay, my clothes are on fire, head on fire, I will shut this fire tomorrow. I will remove that day after tomorrow because it's okay. That's okay to be having all those. For the mindfulness perspective, Buddha says no. You bring more and more power because who doesn't like to be mindful? Who doesn't like to be grounded and peaceful? We all like. Putting the extraordinary effort, what we do is that actually we recognize, we understand, okay, this is what I have. Say that for an example, I have anger. So I put utmost effort to let go the anger. What I can find is the loving kindness meditation. So we would start to practice loving kindness. For the greed, we think impermanence. But if by such self-examination a bhikkhu knows, I am often without longing, without ill will, free from dullness and drowsiness, free from and calm, free from doubt, without anger, undefiled in mind, unagitated in body, energetic and concentrated, I'm very peaceful, and my mind is not frequently occupied by anger, frequently occupied by greed. He should base himself on those same wholesome qualities and make a further effort to reach the destruction of the taints, which means you based on that mind, which is peaceful mind, to bring up more wholesome qualities, more skills, more beautiful qualities, and make further effort. So you go in the same effort to further to bring up more beautiful qualities like compassion, kindness, equanimity, appreciation, gratitude, forgiveness, detachment, contentment, fearlessness, confidence, trust, faith, whatever there are, everything start to flow into that person's life if they manage these three unskillful thoughts through the mindfulness. There are a lot of things that we can enjoy in the future if we develop this mindfulness. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, by the power of the merit that we accumulated by studying the Dhamma, may every one of us has the great opportunity to attain the perfect bliss of our mind. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May all my friends join with me also rejoice in this merit. May you enjoy long life, happiness, good health, protection, all the success in your spiritual life, and may you soon attain Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right. Thank you so much for joining with me. May you be well and happy. Take care, friends.
Sama-sama.